This is your Daily 5 for Monday, October 27th, 2025. Many times when I start one of these, I say you may already have heard or you likely have heard, but in this case, I don't know if everybody's really aware of this for one of two reasons or both together. One, not everybody uses Discord. So you see the word Discord, and if you don't use it or really care, you may not even think anything of it. And also, data breaches at this point are so common that I think to a lot of folks, they've just become white noise, something they don't even pay attention to. So you may not be aware that Discord recently disclosed a breach. Now, a lot of details around it are still in flux. We don't know exactly how many ID photos were leaked. Discord says around 70,000. Some other outside sources are saying closer to 2 million. However, it's very possible those outside sources are actually the people who stole this stuff and they're trying to ramp up their price and put pressure on Discord. So we don't really have a reliable number. The method of exfiltration is also seemingly disputed, where Discord has said that it was Zendesk, a third-party customer support contractor they use, but Zendesk is saying they weren't hacked. That could be semantics, because this appears to be a fairly common attack vector where a employee at a third party is socially engineered or compromised in some way, and so gains what seems to be legitimate access. In other words, they didn't get around a vulnerability, they exploited a human vulnerability to get credentials to get in, and then basically just downloaded data. Now, that is arguable on whether it's a hack or not. The hack was at the human level, but the company itself technically wasn't hacked. It was that employee credentials were used. All that is kind of up in the air. I happened to watch a video, which I'll link to in the show notes. That's a really good explainer for this. But there was an interesting couple of things that came up in the video that this individual did. One was that ultimately this is Discord's responsibility because they contracted with this company. And so based on their policy saying that any IDs uploaded in, and this was specific to support tickets where there was age or ID verification needed. And so a government issued or some kind of identifying verification was necessary using a photo. That's what apparently is leaked. And most people, as I'm sure you're aware, they don't really know enough to scrub their IDs if they have to upload them. They just send a picture of the whole thing, which is not what you should do if you can avoid it. You should really scrub as many details as possible, or just avoid doing that and verify some other way. But putting all that aside, ultimately, because Discord's policy said that none of this was stored and this shouldn't have happened, and it did happen, they're ultimately responsible. And also that this incident is coming at a particularly bad time for Discord as they're ramping up to do an IPO. They're going to have an initial public offering. And so there's this idea that bad news like this may negatively impact that offering. So a couple things. In essence, or in spirit, I should say, I do agree with this individual that Discord is responsible in terms of the chain of accountability, but especially in the United States, I don't know about anywhere else, but I have not heard of any really good examples that it's happening anywhere else. If there is not any legal penalty or significant customer recourse for a breach like this when it happens, I don't know how responsible a company really is. We can say they're responsible. You can point a finger at them, but if there's no actual legal repercussions, who cares? And coupled with that, do I really believe that this is the type of incident that could damage an IPO if a company is still seen as valuable to people who want to invest in it? Absolutely not. I just said at the beginning of this that people have become essentially immune to caring about data breaches. I don't think investors care. This is not a scandal that is actually threatening the company in any significant way. I've seen nothing that suggests that they're in real financial or legal trouble. Yeah, they'll get a slap on the wrist. They'll give out a year of identity protection to anybody who's directly impacted. And 6 months from now, nobody will remember this anymore. It'll be gone. I can't even remember what the last major breach was. There are so many of them. And there's enough other things going on that people are not going to care about this. And so do I think that an IPO is significantly threatened by a data breach for a company? Of course not. Now, some people might not want to invest because they'd be worried about probably their own information, but I don't think this in any way changes what the valuation of the company will be. Now, both of those things that I just said, as far as not thinking there's any legal repercussions and that it won't affect the IPO, I don't say those as positives. If anything, those are two glaring red examples of what's wrong here. And as long as those two things stay true, then there is a major problem. And at some point, maybe somebody should deal with it. Later.